Hi, I'm Ben and welcome to this video. Thanks for tuning in. What I'm going to be telling you about today is the complete process that we use in our company for our own websites and for our clients' websites. This is how we research where the maximum amount of traffic is available that you can get to your website, and where you choose the method how you are going to proceed to catch that traffic. Now, the first thing I need to show you is this graph. And this is very, very important. What this graph is showing you is the average distribution of clicks for pages that show up at different places in the search engine results. So if you look at this, you'll see that the number one ranking page will get on average about 40 to 45% of all the clicks that are clicked from the search engine results. The page that comes in at number 2 might get about 25 to 30%. At number 3, it's down lower, 15 to 20, something like that. This isn't always the way it works out. This is an average taken across a lot of different results, right? But what we can see is a few very, very important things. The main thing that you need to know is that the results on the first page of Google will normally get about 95% of all the clicks. So if you're not on page 1 for certain search results, you are not going to get any kind of significant traffic. And this is absolutely critical. You have to be on page 1 for some results, if not preferably several results. So the question that we're faced with is, what are the best terms for which you can get onto page 1? So the two things that are important in answering that question, what are the best terms, is what search terms are going to get you good traffic, and also where the top ranking pages right now are within reach of your web pages that you want to create or you want to optimize. Good traffic, and how competitive is it? Are there targets within reach? So we're going to start by looking at where you can find the best traffic. So this is the Google AdWords research tool, and it's a great free online tool from Google, and you can use this to find search terms, and it will tell you the number of searches that are done each month on Google for those particular terms. So I'm just going to choose something at random. I'm going to choose growing tomatoes. So I'm going to type in growing tomatoes, and I'll click only show ideas closely related, and I'll click search. So here what we've got is the term growing tomatoes gets 110,000 searches worldwide on Google every single month. And if I look across, because I've specified the location United Kingdom, it's telling me that there are about 22,000 searches done per month on Google UK. Now, that looks like amazing traffic. If you can get to number 1 on Google for growing tomatoes, then you could get 40-45% of that 110,000 searches. So you could expect 50,000 people a month to come to your website for that term. However, let's look a bit lower down the page. The tool here is also showing us that there are a lot of other search terms, and this is very, very important. If I order them by the number of searches, tomatoes growing is essentially the same term as growing tomatoes. But you've got others. Growing tomatoes plants gets 40,000 searches a month. Growing tomatoes from seed, 8,000. Remember, what we're looking for is good traffic, but good traffic for which we think we can get to number 1 on the search engines. So here is the amount of traffic that you can get. The next step, as we've seen, is what is achievable. What's the traffic that we can actually get a really good share of? So I'll show you how we would go about that. So I'll take growing tomatoes as my initial phrase. I'll just open up a new tab and I will do a search on Google for growing tomatoes. And here we've got the top 3 results. And I'm just going to control click on each of those and bring up 3 pages. So here's the number 1 result. This is the page that Google.com thinks is the most relevant page about growing tomatoes. It's the page that is most about growing tomatoes. So let's have a quick look at the page, because there's two important things. The first is, does this page say it's about growing tomatoes? And we can see that it does. The title tag says growing tomatoes, tomato growing tips. And we've also got something that's probably a heading 1 tag here that says growing tomatoes. Then you've got grow tomatoes, and the term is featured in several places on the page. It's a long page. It's got a lot of information on there. And that's one thing. Does the page itself say that it is about growing tomatoes? And that really qualifies it to be in the running, to be in the results somewhere for that search term. Now, how does Google decide which page is the most relevant on that? And the main factor that it uses is how many other pages from around the web and how many other different websites link in to this specific page and mention that term, and how reputable or respectable are those pages. Now, it's pretty easy to find how many links there are pointing to this page. So here I'm just going to use the SEO plugin for Chrome, and I click on this Yahoo backlinks for the specified URL. Now this is telling me that there are 196 links that Yahoo knows about that are pointing to that particular page. If I look at the number 2 page and do the same thing, this page is on the BBC site, there are 75 links. So there's a lower number of links pointing to the number 2 result. And let's check out the number 3 result. Number 3 result has 111 links, so that's more than the number 2 result. So what we're learning from this is that not all links are equal. It's not just about the sheer number of links pointing to this particular page. Obviously, the on-site optimization is important. This website is called growing-tomato.com, so that makes it immediately slightly more relevant. But not all links are created equal. So what do you do? Well, I'm going to show you another way of getting insight into how important, how rankable, how strong is any particular page. And I'm going to go back to the SEO plugin for Chrome. There's other plugins for different browsers as well. This is just the one that I happen to be using. And I'm going to go to this one called Open Site Explorer. I'll just click on that. And this is bringing up this free tool from SEO Moz. And this is giving me some very useful information. Really, it's these 4 headline numbers that we're looking at. Page authority is an indicator of how many links are pointing to this page and how powerful, how strong, how useful are those links. Are they coming from good, interesting, well-respected sites that have other links pointing to them, for example? Then if we move across to domain authority, that's talking about the overall website. So this is weekendgardener.net. How strong in relative terms out of 100 is weekendgardener.net? The next one, linking root domains, is how many different websites have links pointing to this site, and then how many links has Open Site Explorer found that point to this page. Okay, so we've got 4 very useful terms: the relative strength of the page, the relative strength of the domain that it's on, and how many links are pointing to that, and how many different websites are those links coming from. And the higher these numbers, the stronger the page is likely to be. If we do a similar thing for the number 2 result, click on Open Site Explorer. There we've got a page authority of 59, so it's actually higher. The domain authority is 99. This is coming from the bbc.co.uk website, which is a massive site, loads and loads of links pointing to it. But to this particular page, we've only got 9 different websites linking, providing 15 different links. Let's just quickly do the same thing for the number 3 term. Click on Open Site Explorer. And here we see a decent page authority, a lower domain authority, 159 links from 74 different websites. So, what does all this mean? Well, you can use this data to investigate and to evaluate the relative strength of your competition. And I'm going to show you now the method that we have been using up until recently to compare all this data and then to identify which search results we think may be targetable. Okay? And then after that, I'm going to show you a new tool that we've started using recently. So this is an online spreadsheet that we've created for one of our clients that we did a couple of months ago. This is SpanishForPreschoolers.com, and what we've done here is we've listed a bunch of different search terms that are relevant to our market. And I'm not going to go into all this detail, but we've got the number of monthly searches, which we got from the Google research tool, the estimated visits at the #1 position, which is 40% of that, and then we've gone and we've looked up the #1 result for all of those search terms right now on Google. And we've also looked up those 4 main metrics that we've got from Open Site Explorer. Okay, and then the next step was we've compared the page authority, domain authority, number of inbound links, and how many pages, sites they come from that we've got on our site currently, which is 23, 7, 1, and 2. And we've looked at which results that are ranking #1 right now are within reach of where we are now. So there's no point really trying to compete for a search term where the #1 search result is way ahead of you. So here, for example, this Spanish for Kids one, it's got a much higher page and domain authority. It's got 2,000 links from 146 different websites pointing to there. Now that's beyond reach right now. But what we can do is we can start by targeting other terms, say this one, which has got a very similar page authority. The domain has got more authority, but it's not got too many links. 24 links coming from 24 different domains. So what this is telling us is that if we can build a better set of inbound links than this page, then we should be able to rank at #1 eventually for that term and get our share of 6,600 searches a month, which would be 2,500 or thereabouts. So that's giving us a useful target to aim for. And then what we've done is we've highlighted the various terms that we think we can compete for. We've highlighted them in orange. Now, the reason I'm showing you this is a very powerful process, but it's also quite a lengthy process. This took me and my team about half a day to do and to develop this method. Now, we've then moved on from that, and I want to show you a slightly more recent method that we used. This is for our own website, for Web Design from Scratch, and we've again listed a bunch of terms that were suggested by the Google Keyword Tool, monthly searches, and here we've looked at the #1, #2, and #3 results. Okay, and for each of those we've gathered that same data, and then again comparing the stats for our own site, we've looked to find the search results that are ranking and also the amount of traffic that we think we would be able to get by achieving that position either at #1, #2, or #3. Now this is a better approach, but it still took an awfully long time because we're going to these different free tools and we're copying and pasting a lot of information. This still represented hours of work. It works, it's very good, but it took hours of work. Now, what we've done since is we've come across a much better tool, and I'm going to show you this right now. Remember, we were using the Open Site Explorer, and here's the example from the #1 result. This is provided by SEO Moz, and what's useful about this data is that it's a really quick way of getting somebody's best evaluation of how strong a page is. And quite honestly, without doing an awful lot of investigative work yourself, you're not going to come up with anything better than this because nobody really knows what algorithm Google uses to judge ranking. But this is as good as any. Okay, so what we then did is we came across the full SEO Moz tool, their Pro tool, and I've just set up a free trial account which you can get for 30 days for SEO Moz, and I've set that up just a few minutes ago, and I want to show you what it's possible to do within that tool. So I'm just going to start by typing in my own domain name. It says Web Design from Scratch, and I'm going to call it a name, WDFS, and carry on. The next thing I need to do is specify my search engine, so I'm going to use Google US. It's as good as any because our site is international. Then what it's going to say is find 3 competitors to track. So what you might do is you might just type in a particular search into Google, the thing that you'd really love to rank for, and then copy the domain name. So I'm going to just pick 3 from here. I'm going to take that web pages for designers. So that's 1. And I'll take buildwebsite.com. And the final one, I'll take this GarySimon.net because that's one that we think we can compete for. And I'll just remove the page name from there. It only wants the base domain name here. So I'll hit continue. Now what SEO Moz is then going to do is it's going to track these competitors for me. It's going to track my performance against these top 3 sites for me. And it wants me to enter now 5 keywords that are going to be the basis of my first campaign. So I'll just choose some here. I'll take how to build a website. You can put as many of these as you like in. How to design a website. I'll put designing a website. I'll take web page design. This is pretty arbitrary. And just maybe build website, because I know there's good traffic for all of those. And I'll click create my campaign. So now it's telling me it's set up my campaign and it's going to start collecting data for me on all of that. So I'll click take me to my campaign. And here I'm going to be really within the SEO Moz Pro tool. Now there's a few interesting things that are going to happen over the next couple of days, and I'll be able to come back here and get some really useful insights into this. But there's loads and loads of very valuable tools here provided by SEO Moz. So I'm going to click on research tools, and there's one thing in particular that I think is absolutely amazing, and it's the keyword difficulty. Now remember, this is a free trial that I'm using. I click on keyword difficulty and it wants me to put in a particular search term. So let's just pick one off my list. How to design a website gets 6 million searches a month. And what's my search engine? Google. And I'll just click run report. Now look at this. This is saying this is a highly competitive term with relative 69% competitiveness, right? It's busy here looking up the search volume for this term, and it's getting that from the exact same source, from the Google stats. So this is saying 2.2 million local searches a month or 6 million global searches a month, and that's exactly the same that we would get from the Google AdWords tool. And look at this, it's telling me the relative strength in domain authority and page authority pretty much instantly for this search term. So it's saying the number 1 term has got 44% domain authority, whatever that means, and 45% page authority. You can see that some of these domains are very popular, very strong, right? But that doesn't necessarily put them at number 1, because we've also got to take into account the relevance of the particular page and how many links are pointing into those pages, right? So this is a useful indicator. But watch this, when I scroll down, what I've got now is it's basically done all of that work for me that I was previously spending half a day collecting by hand, and I'm getting all of this in literally moments. So here we've got the number 1 result, GarySimon.net, right, which is one of the competitors that I looked at. It's giving me the page authority and domain authority, which are both less than my homepage or a typical page on the site. And it's telling me how many different websites are linking in to that particular page and how many different websites are linking in to that site altogether. Now what I can then do is I can compare that against my own site, but it's also really, really helping me here because it's also color coding these different results. So where you've got something that's deep red or deep green here, these are pages that are very, very difficult. They're going to be relatively hard to compete against. However, if I look at the number one result here, I then know exactly how much work I will have to do in terms of link building or marketing this new content that I may create in order to get to number one for this search term. So as far as I'm concerned, this is a bit of a dream come true because it's saving me hours and hours, if not days per month of research work. It is doing it all in one go. And that is only the keyword difficulty tool within SEO Moz. There's a bunch of other very, very useful tools for research, for tracking your ranking, and all those kinds of things. So I'm very excited, and I would definitely encourage you to go through to SEO Moz and get your own trial account, because literally in 30 days you could come out with an amazing SEO strategy for any website or for a number of projects for maybe clients' websites as well. And after that point, I think the cost is going to be something like $99 a month if you choose to carry on. They won't bill you this month, they'd bill you next month. But if you've got your own website, the potential gain for this, or if you do the same thing for clients, the value of this is potentially immense, because it helps you very, very quickly identify those search terms that you want to be competing for. And it's going to help you know where to invest your time, where to invest your energy for the maximum result. And it's doing it in a fraction of the time that you could do this in any other way. So I'm very stoked about this, and I would definitely encourage you to go and get a trial for SEO Moz Pro yourself and check it out.